Everyone's talking about the missiles. Almost nobody is talking about what they actually hit. A single strike on a cloud data center in the Middle East didn't just take a building offline. It landed a blow on the invisible architecture America uses to run the entire region. I'm Alex. In the next few minutes, I'll show you why this was never a military story. It's a story about data, capital, and a hegemony that was never as solid as it looked. Start with the puzzle. Why would Amazon and Microsoft plant their most critical AI cloud regions in the middle of the desert? On paper, it's about cheap power and loose rules. But that's only half the story. The real reason is strategic, and it's been hiding in plain sight. Reason 1. Pure cost arbitrage. The Gulf sits on abundant, heavily subsidized electricity, power that costs a fraction of what it does in Virginia or Frankfurt. Add fast-track approvals and none of the environmental or compliance overhead of the West, and you can run a hyperscale data center for a fraction of the price. For AI labs burning cash on every GPU hour, that margin is everything. Reason 2 is the one that matters. The Gulf's sovereign wealth funds are the single richest pool of capital backing the global AI race. We're not talking pocket change. By global SWF's July 2025 rankings, Saudi Arabia's PIF manages $1.15 trillion. Abu Dhabi's ADIA, $1.11 trillion. Kuwait's KIA just crossed $1 trillion. Add Qatar and Mubadala, and the Gulf commands well over $3.5 trillion in sovereign wealth. Here's the leverage. America holds the chips, literally. Export controls. Core AI licensing. The foundry access. In exchange, Gulf capitals are steered into pouring hundreds of billions into US AI firms. That doesn't just fill the $100 billion training gap of the big models. It locks the Gulf inside the American technology ecosystem and quietly shuts the door on every rival system and infrastructure that carries it all. Cloud. In the Middle East, US hyperscalers dominate. AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google alone account for roughly 2/3 of the region's enterprise cloud workloads. In smaller Gulf states, American providers run the market almost unchallenged, with virtually no Chinese presence at all. Now connect the dots. Those cloud regions don't just host Netflix and payroll. They sit underneath the region's financial settlement, its energy dispatch, its government operations, and its military communications. Whoever runs the cloud runs the nervous system, an invisible monopoly and far harder to dislodge than any overseas airbase. Which is exactly why the data center was the target. When that facility went dark, it wasn't a server room that got bombed. It was the pivot of America's digital hegemony in the region and the pipeline feeding Gulf wealth into US tech cut at the source. And according to Tehran, that was only step 1. Iran's doctrine has quietly upgraded. The goal is no longer body count. It's system disruption. Degrade the sensors before you engage the targets. Over recent weeks, strikes have methodically taken out forward radar and early warning nodes, peeling away America's regional situational awareness, one layer at a time. The deeper logic is geographic. For decades, Washington treated the Arab states as Israel's external defense in depth, a buffer that kept the homeland far from the fighting. Iran's answer is to compress that space, herding dispersed US forces and air defense into one narrow, depth-starved redoubt, Israel itself. And it's working. The main US force has been pushed back toward the Jordan line, the last overland shield on Israel's eastern flank. Dismantle Jordan's early warning and air defense, and the buffer goes to zero. The homeland sits exposed under Iran's mid- and long-range fires. The strategic floor America built over decades is crumbling in real time. Look at Iran's home front and the picture sharpens. In a single month, it moved roughly 70 million barrels of oil, pulling in hard currency and easing the squeeze of sanctions. The politics hardened too. Even the formerly moderate foreign minister now warns that any strike on Iran's power, water, or oil will be answered with indiscriminate retaliation across the Gulf. Translation: there are no doves left in Tehran, only hawks, and a faction that thinks the response hasn't been fierce enough. A country unified, sanctions or not, is a very different adversary than the collapsing state Washington assumed it was facing. Now look at the other side. Since the new defense secretary took office, the US military has lived through a purge rarely seen in decades. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Army's top general, the Navy secretary, all shown the door with no public explanation. The message inside the building was unmistakable. Tell the truth, and you're next. So everyone stopped telling the truth. From frontline units to the Pentagon, ammo shortages, overruns, and equipment gaps were buried. And because stockpile numbers are among the most classified figures in the building, almost nobody holds the real data. So the distorted picture can't be checked, corrected, or contradicted. The result is a leadership wrapped in happy fiction.
Correct. The Brain Trust floated 3 desperate plays: seize Iran's Kark oil terminal by force, bomb the mountain nuclear tunnels, widen strikes onto the energy grid, not strategy. A gambler's throw straight out of the playbook of leaders who were told they were winning right up until the moment they weren't.
Here's the real lesson. The contest between Washington and Tehran was never about who has more guns. It's about system cognition, internal cohesion, and the nerve to hold a line. Iran is dismantling the American position with precision and unity. America still looks mighty, right up until you notice the foundation is hollow. That's the part the headlines miss. The war everyone's watching isn't the one being won. If you want the next breakdown the moment it lands, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments which domino falls next. I'm Alex, thanks for watching.